Welcome to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In this video, we are going to review 10 of the most impactful new cards from the Ruinous Powers pre-constructed commander deck from Warhammer 40K. We will also discuss some possible upgrades to the original deck list, as well as highlight the deck's most valuable reprint. The Ruinous Powers is a Grixis build with Demon and Cascade themes. The front-facing commander of this build, Abaddon the Despoiler, is a 5/5 Astartes warrior with trample for 2 in Grixis colors. During our turn, spells we cast from our hand with mana value X or less have Cascade, where X is the total amount of life lost by our opponents this turn. The secondary commander option, Be'lakor the Dark Master, is a 6/5 Demon Noble with flying for 3 in Grixis colors, and whenever Be'lakor enters the battlefield, we draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of demons we control. Whenever another demon enters the battlefield under our control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. These commanders synergize with very different types of builds, as Be'lakor wants to helm a demon tribal build, while Abaddon wants to cascade through the 99 and cast free spells left and right. For the purposes of this review, and specific to the 99 of this deck, I prefer Abaddon in the command zone. Abaddon has a slightly cheaper mana value and can impact the game with greater regularity through its Cascade ability than the demon-dependent abilities of Be'lakor. We may be splitting hairs between these two options because, honestly, either one is a force to be reckoned with when on the battlefield. But for this video, we move forward with Abaddon. The most valuable reprint in the Ruinous Powers is Chromatic Lantern. Since its original printing in Return to Ravnica, and excluding its reprinting as a masterpiece during the Kaladesh block, this is Chromatic Lantern's third reprinting, and a welcomed one at that for its ability to completely fix a land base by its presence on the battlefield. The following list of cards, ranked in no particular order, jump right off of the screen as very impactful additions to the Commander format, particularly for their versatility of being played in a variety of different decks. The Lost and the Damned is an enchantment for 1 in Grixis colors. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control from anywhere other than our hand, or we cast a spell from anywhere other than our hand, we create a 3/3 red spawn creature token. Activating fetch lands, playing lands from graveyards, and casting ramp spells are the most likely ways of triggering the Lost and the Damned's spawn token creating ability. Of course, casting our commander from the command zone triggers it as well. We continue to wait impatiently for the Wooburg Omnath to appear, enabling the ultimate 5-color landfall build. When that happens, the Lost and the Damned should find a place in the 99 of that build, as well as in any other landfall or lands matter builds with blue and red in their color identities. Exalted Flamer of Teach is a 2/4 demon for 2 in Izzet colors. At the beginning of our upkeep, we return an instant or sorcery card at random from our graveyard to our hand. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, this Exalted Flamer deals 1 point of damage to each opponent. Any Izzet spell-slinging deck can find a slot for this demon in the 99. Creatures that fuel their own engines are very valuable, and Exalted Flamer checks that box. Blood for the Blood God is an instant for 8, 2 black, and 1 red mana, and hopefully we never pay the full 8 generic mana to cast this spell, because it costs 1 less to cast for each creature that died this turn. We discard our hand, we draw 8 cards, and each opponent takes 8 points of direct damage. Then we exile Blood for the Blood God. This is the ultimate sit back and wait until a board wipe is cast spell. We gain an 8-card advantage over our opponents, and they lose 20% of their starting life total. And it's possible for a minuscule investment of only 3 mana. drawing cards, and lowering opponents' life totals. That's how games of Magic the Gathering are won. Any deck with black and red in their colored identities should welcome this new powerful instant with arms wide open. Draknyan is a legendary equipment for 4 in Rakdos colors, and it has an equip cost of 2 generic mana. When it enters the battlefield, we exile up to 1 target creature. Equipped creature has menace and gets +X/+0, where X is the exile card's power. Note the trickiness of this text. Exiling a creature token will not result in a power buff due to the card's power being checked and not the creature's. This equipment has a powerful ability of impacting the board when it ETBs. It provides the equipped creature with evasion, which could be our commander, and, most likely, buffs the power of the equipped creature as well. With removal, evasion, and buffing, Draknyan seems like a powerful equipment to include in any Voltron build that has black and red in their color identities. Bloodthirster is a 6/6 demon with flying and trample for 5 and 1 red mana. If these were its only stats, it still is worthy of consideration for decks playing red. Whenever Bloodthirster deals combat damage to a player, untap it. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. Bloodthirster can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn. Wait, what? Really? Is this serious? Is this the most powerful red creature in Magic right now? Yes, yes, and yes. Imagine this scenario. We have a 6/6 flying trampler. It should deal combat damage to any opponent due to its double evasion. If we have 3 opponents, and if it deals combat damage to each one of them, and then sits out the last triggered additional combat phase because it can't attack a player it has already attacked this turn, then we end up with 4 combat phases in 1 turn. Do you hear that? Those are verses of praise from every single Kalia of the Vast player in Magic's history. Can you imagine attacking with a hasty Kalia on turn 3 and putting Bloodthirster onto the battlefield tapped and attacking? And then attacking each other opponent with it that turn? Even Kalia fans who may no longer play Magic are having out-of-body experiences over Bloodthirster, potentially prompting them to return to the game just to slam a copy of this demon into the Mardu deck of their favorite human cleric. Bloodthirster may be the most powerful card from the Warhammer 40K commander decks and has a great chance to become the most valuable. Venom Crawler is a 2/2 demon with lifelink for 2 and 2 black mana. Whenever another creature dies, we put a +1/+1 counter on Venom Crawler. Notice the text. It says, whenever another creature dies. This death trigger is not limited to non-token creatures or creatures we control. Any creature dying slaps a +1/+1 counter on this lifelinking demon. Any deck with black in it could have a slot for this demon. Poxwalkers is a 3/1 zombie with death touch for 2 and 1 black mana. Whenever we cast a spell from anywhere other than our hand, we return Poxwalkers from our graveyards to the battlefield tapped. This can be a potent addition to graveyard decks and is a great enabler of a Phyrexian Altar and Gravecrawler engine, particularly in conjunction with any peripheral death triggers or big mana spells for which black is famous. From the Burgeoning Commander catalog, Poxwalkers is a fantastic addition to the Wilhelt the Rotcleaver deck. Nurgle's Conscription is an instant for 4 and 1 black mana that allows us to put target creatures from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield tapped and under our control, and then that player's graveyard is exiled. Graveyards continue to be called upon as extensions of players' hands, and spells that can cripple these outlets at instant speed are very valuable. With Nurgle's Conscription, we rummage around an opponent's graveyard and snag any creature we want before exiling their graveyard. Instant speed recursion and graveyard exiling? Yes and yes. This instant is a great addition to any deck with black in its color identity. The Ruinous Powers is an enchantment for 2 and Rakdos colors, and at the beginning of our upkeep, we choose an opponent at random. We exile the top card of that player's library, and until end of turn, we may play that card, and we may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. When we cast a spell this way, its owner loses life equal to its mana value. Notice the text. It says we may play that card, meaning that if we exile a land, we may play it if we have an available land drop. This is a set it and forget it enchantment in Rakdos colors that gives us card advantage and a peripheral life drain effect. There are no hoops to jump through or hurdles to jump over. An extra card each turn with the potential of draining an opponent's life if we cast it. Done and done. Any deck in Rakdos colors would love to include the Ruinous Powers. Lucius the Eternal is a 5/3 legendary Astartes warrior with haste for 3 in Rakdos colors. When Lucius dies, we exile it and choose target creature an opponent controls. When that creature leaves the battlefield, we return Lucius from exile to the battlefield under its owner's control. Notice the text. It says, when that creature leaves the battlefield. The targeted creature does not need to die in order to bring Lucius back. It could be exiled, bounced, or blanked, and Lucius returns to the battlefield. As long as there are creatures in our opponent's control, Lucius never truly dies. With a host of sacrifice effects like Goblin Bombardment and Viscera Seer, paired with powerful enter the battlefield triggers like Warstorm Surge, Where Ancients Tread, and Terror of the Peaks, Lucius the Eternal can make a massive impact at the EDH table, especially if he's helming a Rakdos deck by coming out of the command zone. Lucius the Eternal could be a dark horse candidate as most powerful new legendary creature from the 40K commander decks. The following cards are possible upgrades to the Ruinous Powers original deck list. These cards are focused on enhancing and optimizing the Cascade theme of this build, and with an eye on choosing Abaddon the Despoiler as the general. Florian Voldaren Scion provides another bonus to the cumulative amount of life lost by our opponents. At the beginning of our post-combat main phase, we look at the top X cards of our library, where X is the total amount of life lost by our opponents this turn. We exile one of those cards and may play it until end of turn. We put the rest of the cards in the bottom of our library in a random order. In this type of build, we should be able to look at chunks of our library at a time, ensuring that we select the most appropriate card needed, a benefit that will lead to our opponent's demise. As long as we control our commander, Loyal Subordinate's combat trigger forces each opponent to lose 3 life. With 3 opponents, that's 9 total life lost, and since it's a trigger, we don't need to cast any spells for our opponents to lose this life, saving all of our mana for our Cascade-enabled spells for the purposes of getting the greatest return on our mana investments. Maestro's Charm can provide a card or direct damage to a creature or a planeswalker, but making each opponent lose 3 life is the most important mode as it pertains to Abaddon. Angrath the Flame Chain's +1 ability forces each opponent to discard a card and lose 2 life. If left unchecked, this planeswalker could have a dramatic impact on not only our opponent's resources and life totals, but also Abaddon's Cascade enablement. As long as we have the City's Blessing, Twilight Prophet's upkeep trigger provides us with card advantage and life gain, as well as an outlet for each of our opponents to lose life, triggering Abaddon's Cascade enablement of our spells. Quakebringer deals 2 damage to each opponent at the beginning of our upkeep, denies our opponents the ability to gain life, and can be cheated ahead of curve through its foretell cost. This damage-dealing ability also happens if Quakebringer is in our graveyard and we control a giant. Chandra, Torch of Defiance's first +1 ability, provides either peripheral card advantage or an outlet to deal 2 damage to each opponent if we choose not to cast a card exiled by her. Whenever Tectonic Giant attacks or becomes the target of a spell, it deals 3 damage to each opponent, or we exile the top 2 cards of our library, and until end of our next turn, we may play one of those cards. Either we enable Abaddon's Cascade ability, or we gain card advantage, making Tectonic Giant a versatile and powerful addition to this type of build. Delayed Blast Fireball deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control if we pay the 1 and 2 red mana cost. If we pay the foretell cost instead, then it deals 5 points of damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If we have 3 opponents, that's 15 life lost, ensuring that nearly any spell we cast from our hand thereafter has Cascade. Even without Abaddon on our side of the battlefield, this is a great way to rid the battlefield of a score of our opponent's creatures. Dragon's Approach is a sorcery for 2 and 1 red mana, and we can have any number of cards named Dragon's Approach in our deck. It deals 3 damage to each opponent, and if we choose to load the 99 with numerous copies of this sorcery, then we should include a few dragons for the purposes of optimizing this card's dragon fetching ability. Even if we don't, 3 mana for 3 damage to each opponent over and over and over again in a deck helmed by Abaddon should allow us to make quick work of our opponents. And that concludes our review of the Ruinous Powers pre-constructed commander deck from Warhammer 40K. Which cards did we leave out? Which new cards are your favorite? And which cards would you suggest for the purposes of upgrading the original deck list of this build? Let me know in the comments section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.